Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we are talking all things true crime. If you haven't stopped here before, let me just break it down. We're talking about everything relating to true crime. Like I just said, I guess I'm a parrot and I'm repeating myself. But we're talking about current cases, older cases, updated cases. We kind of really talk about everything. So if you ever have a case suggestion, please feel free to email it, but you'll probably find a little bit of everything on this channel. So if you appreciate today's case coverage and feel like, hey, it's a channel I want to check out again in the future, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And for all of my returning 10 to Lifers, welcome back. Boy, do I have a case for you today. It is like, I don't know, guys. Let me just talk to you about it. In today's society, something that we all know is a common part of life at one point or another for the majority of people is the use of online dating apps. There are dating apps for specific sexualities, interests, political affiliations. There's even a section on some dating apps specifically made for friendships only. So like many things, technology makes it easy to find people with similar interests that you might have a connection with or a connection to. But in some cases, you have to ask yourself at what cost. Or in other cases, it makes it all too easy for creeps and people with ill intentions to have easy access to innocent people at just the push of a button. Not to mention the very little rules and regulations that these dating apps actually use make it essentially easier for those who do have bad intentions. The extreme dangers of online dating is unfortunately the reality that some people meet due to predators who use these apps as their personal Rolodex of sorts to find their victims. And the case we're talking about today is exactly that. And it's very similar. I want to give you a little bit of a warning. It has some Dahmer elements to it. And I know that everybody's been watching that on Netflix lately, so it's got some elements to that and feels very reminiscent of that kind of dynamic, if you know where I'm going. So let's jump right into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
We are taking a quick break in today's case to have a word from our sponsor. As you guys know, I'm always wearing glasses. I need glasses. It helps me with my headaches. It helps me see better. I just wear them for a bunch of reasons. And it's time to just spice it up and get some new frames because I'm getting a little bored with the ones I've got. Now, Warby Parker offers everything you need for happier eyes. Little smiley face. They offer eyeglasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. And you can shop with them online or in stores, whatever is most convenient for you. Glasses start at just $95, and that includes prescription lenses. And what I love is that Warby Parker offers a try-on kit from home, a free home try-on kit. Let me talk to you about this program. You order 5 pairs of glasses to try on at home for free. There's absolutely no obligation to buy them. It ships for free and even includes a prepaid return shipping label. This is fantastic for me because I am very indecisive, so I need to try on all of the things and see what I like. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to try on some for you because I got my new try-on kit in the mail and I need your help deciding which new frames are going to be added into the rotation. Okay, so this is the Abe in polished gold. I kind of like how thin the frames are, but I also feel like I look like Jeffrey Dahmer a little bit. And that can't be a good look, especially when I talk about true crime. So maybe we'll pass on these ones. These are the Durand in medium rosewater. Now, I always love the frames that are subtle and have a little pink. They just look nice. So these ones I like. They're a little bit smaller and not as cat eye as the current ones I wear. So, okay, these are definitely a contender. Let me put these off to the side. Okay, next here we have the Opal Tortoise, and it's in the Langley frame. Let's see here. Whoa. It's very librarian, but I definitely look smarter in these. I think is smarter a word? More smart. Smarter, more smart. I definitely feel like I look smart in these. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Next, we have a York in rose gold. I love a rose gold moment. All right, let's see here. Okay, so these aren't as Dahmer-like, and I like the thin frame still, but there's something that still just isn't quite, not hitting the mark for me. What do you guys think? Okay, let's go with this last pair, and this is the Sahana in polished gold. Let me see. Ooh. Ooh, I think these are the moment. These are the vibe, guys. I really like these. Okay, so we got these, and then these are the Durand in the rose. I like both of these. I think we struck gold for 2 out of 5. The other one I look like Dahmer. The other one I look like a librarian. And then that third one, I feel like it kind of looked like Jiminy Cricket or something really weird like that. So I think we found 2 solid winners here. And guys, you can do this too. Try on 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/10to-life. And what I also love about Warby Parker is they give back. For every pair of glasses sold, Warby Parker distributes a pair of glasses to somebody in need through their Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program. So since day one, over 10 million pairs of glasses have been distributed worldwide. That is incredible. So thank you, Warby Parker, for always keeping my eyeballs trendy and happy and sponsoring today's video. And thank you to all of you viewers for understanding that sponsors are essential to the channel if we want to grow it to a place where I can deliver you more true crime all the time. Now let's jump back into today's case. I am really digging these. Kevin Bacon, not the actor, but a 25-year-old man from Michigan, is described as being joyful and always having a smile on his face no matter what the situation is or what life throws at him. He was also described as being very spunky. He didn't conform to what everybody else did and really marched to the beat of his own drum. Kevin grew up in Michigan, and he was always very close with his family and his friends, and he would surround himself with them all the time. He was also a very creative person and was drawn to hair from a very young age and eventually became a hairstylist, which he had been doing for almost 6 years at this point.
I hope nobody has to go through that. It's been really hard.
More than 24 hours has passed since Carl and Pamela Bacon found out their beloved son, Kevin, died after he went missing.
I don't know. I don't know how to feel.
You couldn't get numb to it all. And I don't think the realization will come till you actually do see him.
Carl and Pamela remember their son as a sociable guy who loved doing hair.
Kevin was a kind-hearted person who enjoyed his work, his life, his work. He was a very good hairstylist. He had a natural talent for it.
Meantime, a GoFundMe page has been created to help with funeral expenses. It even caught the attention of YouTube star Jeffree Star. He donated $20,000. The family says all expenses have been covered.
It's all overwhelming,
it's
but
just overwhelming.
It's really appreciated.
Yeah, that's why we decided to come out and say thank you to everybody.
On Christmas Eve 2019, Kevin left his home around 5:15 p.m. to meet a man that he had just started talking to that same day on an app called Grindr. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Grindr, it is an app that I believe it's only for males. Maybe it's for all genders, but I think it's only for males, or it was back in the day when I knew about it. But it's for men to meet on, whether they want to date, whether they want to hook up. It's been said to kind of be a hookup thing, but whatever. That's what it is. So he was extremely excited about this and was even texting his roommate about the plans, mentioning that he wouldn't be home until way later and that the man that he was meeting up with was going to invite some people over and it was going to be sort of like a party. And Kevin told his roommate that if his mom called, just tell her that I'm sleeping. So as far as his roommate knew, he would either be coming home very late or possibly early the next morning. Just 1 hour later, around 6:20 p.m., all contact from Kevin stopped completely. This wasn't immediately alarming to anyone, especially his best friend and roommate specifically, since he had told her what was happening, and it was the first time meeting these people, so most people probably would put their phones away to make a good first impression and be, completely present and involved. But the next morning, Christmas morning, Kevin never showed up for Christmas breakfast. Everyone immediately knew that something was wrong because Kevin would never in a million years miss Christmas breakfast with his family on purpose. They were way too close, and Christmas, like for many people, was a very important family holiday for him. So his roommate agreed that this was unlike anything Kevin would do, and told his parents what he had told her that he was doing the night before, meeting that new person. So once they knew that the last time he had actually been heard from was when he was meeting somebody that he met online, they immediately filed a missing persons report. Kevin told his roommate what he was doing. However, he had been pretty vague about it. He never told her any specific names or the place that he was going. And I think many of us know this, but This is why it is so important to always let somebody know exactly where you're going and who you're meeting with, because unfortunately, especially today, things like this happen all too often. So since they had no idea where to look or even where Kevin's phone was to get that information, it made the next steps in the case very hard for his parents, his friends, and the authorities. That same day, Kevin's car was found and abandoned near Seymour and Miller Road in Schwartz Creek, and his phone and his wallet was inside the car, as well as a bag of clothing, which I'm guessing was more than likely in preparation to spend the night out somewhere. But the strange thing that was missing was the key to the car. There were no signs around the car or the area of the car with a sign of struggle or any signs indicating where Kevin could have gone. Kevin's family immediately feared the worst because not only would he never skip out on Christmas breakfast, but there was absolutely also no way he would go anywhere without his wallet or his phone. It was way too unlike him. Kevin's family and authorities organized a search for around the area that the car was found, as well as other areas, and simultaneously they were working with Grindr to try to get any information from Kevin's account on who he was speaking with or where he may have been. Now, Grindr was apparently extremely unhelpful and uncooperative in handling this case and handing over information to the authorities. Luckily, they were able to get into Kevin's phone and access the information directly from there, since Grindr proved to be no help directly. Just 3 days later, on December 28th, authorities showed up to the home of 50-year-old Mark Latunski. They showed up to the house to do a wellness check on Kevin and make sure that he was there and alive. This is who he was meeting up with that night. Unfortunately, what authorities found out next was something disturbing and something that they never could have imagined. Upon entering the home and arresting Mark, they found Kevin hanging from the rafters of Mark's home by his ankles. His throat was cut and he had stab wounds to his back. His genitals had also been mutilated. Mark Latunski from the very beginning never tried to hide the fact that Kevin was dead inside, and as a matter of fact, he began giving authorities even more horrific information about what had taken place in that home. He very proudly and honestly claims that after killing Kevin, he mutilated his genitals and then he ate them. He was immediately arrested, like I said, and Mark claims that he was simply acting out a sexual fantasy of Kevin's. He claimed that they met on Christmas Eve in that same parking lot where Kevin's car was later found. He claims that Kevin got naked, put on a blindfold, put on earmuffs, ankle restraints, and wrist restraints. He then says he drove to his home in Bennington Township with Kevin in the back of his van and covered with a blanket. After what Mark claims was a consensual sexual encounter, Kevin apparently suggested about how they could make his body disappear, and also admitted apparently to having thoughts of taking his life in the past. Now let's remember this claim made by Mark, because it's going to come up later again. So Mark says that he then stabbed Kevin once in the back of the neck below his hairline, and that once he realized that he wasn't dead, he decided to cut his throat so that he wouldn't suffer. He claims that they had an agreement, this agreement stating that Mark would end Kevin's life and utilize his body. He disturbingly goes into great detail on just exactly how he planned to utilize it. Now, I want to give you a warning. It is absolutely sickening. He claims that he planned on using the bone meat to plant tulips, his intestines to grow peach pits or chestnuts, and lastly, his muscles to make jerky. After the murder and after Mark was arrested, the U.S. Postal Service actually intercepted a package for Mark that contained a dehydrator inside of it. The entire town was not only heartbroken over the senseless murder of Kevin, but absolutely astounded and terrified that something so gruesome had happened in their own backyard. Mark had grown up in that same town his entire life, which made it all the much scarier and surreal that someone that they had all known, and in some cases even called a friend, could be so twisted and evil to the core.
Shiawassee court records released today indicate that Mark Latunski, who is now accused of Kevin's murder, told police how he killed and mutilated Bacon's body. We want to repeat the warning that the details are gruesome. Investigators say Latunski admitted to stabbing Kevin and hanging him from the rafters of the ceiling in his Bennington Township home, then removing certain body parts and consuming them later. While disturbing revelations hurt the family, they say this is not how they want people to remember their son.
He was a good person. He was compassionate. He cared for the people he met. He cared for the people he worked with.
And he loved everybody.
And he loved everyone
who he came in contact with and everything.
The family says the outpouring of support from everyone has been tremendous. Today they expressed their gratitude for the prayers, donations, and memories shared.
And Kevin's family is also thanking the community for painting this block behind me in his honor.
The block sits on 12th Street and Hammerberg Road in Flint. Police say Kevin met Latunski on a dating app. Kevin's family hopes that this tragedy is a wake-up call to people that meet strangers online.
Mark's home was auctioned off just months later, in February 2020, and while some people found it impossible to imagine living in such a place, others almost made like a spectacle out of it. The interviews of people discussing living in the house were honestly very tone-deaf and very hard to watch.
It's a nice looking house. It's a brick home. It has textured steel shingles on it, little cupola up on the top of the roof. Looks like there might be a couple acres or so. It's a little different because it's kitty corner from a cemetery.
Now this home's selling for $101,733 and some change. The four bidders not even able to see what it looks like inside.
I am friends with someone who actually cleans up bodies and doesn't mind the gore, and neither do I. I'm fully down, and I heard that the house had trap doors inside of it.
The winner, a third-party bidder flying in from Las Vegas, with the Shiawassee County Sheriff's Office not able to share any information on what the house will be used for or who bought it. The possibilities are worrying neighbors like Michael Parks, who lives just down the block.
I was hoping it was over with, and unfortunately it's probably not. So maybe if there's a new chapter to take over and all this kind of gets forgotten, that might be good. But if it gets turned into something as like a tourist spot because of this, I don't know that I'm in favor of that. I don't think it should be glorified.
This case, while still very recent, has gained some new popularity once this Netflix special Dahmer was released, because Mark Latunski has been called the present-day Jeffrey Dahmer for obvious reasons. People often forget while learning and hearing about the twisted murders by people such as Dahmer or Mark that the victims were real people with full lives and futures ahead of them. People they loved and cared for, and unfortunately, these horrific events can happen so easily to anybody, and technology such as social media and dating apps arguably makes it much easier than even when Dahmer was at the height of his killing spree. Mark was charged with the murder and mutilation of Kevin's body, but unfortunately, the trial was put at a standstill almost immediately. Mark was arraigned on December 20th via video chat. At the beginning of the arraignment, the judge, per usual, begins by verifying who the person is. But for some reason, Mark claimed that he was in fact not Mark Latunski, and that he was actually a man named Edgar Thomas Hill, and he claimed that Mark Latunski was his nephew. He even signed as a different name in the court documents. Now, this threw everybody for a loop, because people have seen people try to act insane and crazy before, but this was different. He was taking on a whole different identity. People in the community, as well as Kevin's family, immediately began wondering, did something happen? And is this even the same man arrested that day? Investigators immediately reassured everyone that yes, this is the same man arrested on December 28th at the home of Mark Latunski. The judge carried on with the arraignment and ordered that Mark be held without bond.
A Shiawassee County man has been charged with the murder of Kevin Bacon, who was reported missing when he didn't come home Christmas Day. Mark Latunski was arraigned this afternoon on charges of open murder and mutilation of a human body. He was arrested Saturday after police say they found Bacon's body at his home in Morris. But as Kylie Kahn reports, the man who appeared in court today says he's not Latunski.
Sir, are you Mr. Latunski?
No, my name is Edgar Thomas Hill. Mark Latunski is my nephew.
And he signed another name to court documents. The judge didn't delve into that. He simply continued with the arraignment and ordered Latunski held without bond.
The police have definitely identified who he is. They've dealt with him in the past, and this is the same person they arrested on site. And they have not left his custody at all.
Mark Latunski was charged with kidnapping in 2013, but the charges were dismissed after several competency hearings.
His next scheduled court date was set to January 8th. His public defender, Doug Corwin, claimed that they were going to seek insanity due to what Mark was saying. He also claimed that Mark was living in a false reality and was delusional. He says that he truly believes he is somebody named Edgar and that he thinks that he is a descendant of a royal family in Wales.
He believes he's named someone else. He believes he is from a royal family out of Wales, the Thomas clan. And just the nature of the crime itself, you've got to send him for this evaluation.
In addition to all of this, Mark has a history with what seems to be severe mental illness and competency issues. I think knowing this background, which we will discuss more in depth next, is so heartbreaking, I'm sure, for the family, knowing that if he was in prison for anything he had previously done, Kevin could still very well be with them today. I also think it's absolutely ridiculous if you're competent enough to reel someone in and viciously murder them, you're competent enough to stand trial, but that's just my personal opinion. So the judge decides that due to all of this talk about mental health and Mark's competency, to order a competency test, and he was sent to the Center for Forensic Psychiatry to possibly determine and diagnose if there were any mental health issues going on with him. Based on what was found, two things could have happened. He could be found competent and the trial would continue, or he could be found incompetent, which would lead to them holding him for a year and reevaluating his competency once that year mark is up. So if the doctors at the center find that Mark was in fact insane at the time of the killing, then there are two more options. He would still go to prison, but would be given extra mental health help, or if he is found not guilty due to reasons of insanity, he would be held at the forensics treatment facility until they deemed him better, and then he would be taken off to prison. Mark's public defender, Doug Corin, asked the judge to add charges of assisted unaliving and claimed that Mark was telling the truth about Kevin wanting to help him kill him and dispose of his body, but the judge thankfully dismissed that entire thing. On February 4th, 2020, the Center of Forensic Psychiatry announced that he was not competent to stand trial. This started a 15-month treatment plan where they will be continuously testing his competency and treating him over the next 15 months, and unfortunately, this delayed the trial. October of 2020, after several months in a mental health facility, Mark was deemed mentally fit to stand trial. So on October 23rd, 2020, Mark was arraigned on murder and mutilation charges, and a not guilty plea was entered on his behalf. So remember when I told you to remember the claims that Mark made about how Kevin wanted his help in dying and, getting rid of his body and all of that. Mark's public defender brought up that an antidepressant was present in Kevin's bloodstream at the time of his death, and again claimed that Mark was simply assisting Kevin in his plans. Thankfully, based on the text message exchanges between the two on Grindr, we see that Kevin seemed very happy and not at all discussing wishing to be killed or end his own life. It was a huge reach bringing that up, not once but twice, in my opinion. During this hearing, the Michigan Police Department went into detail about finding Kevin's body. They also claimed that when they arrived at Mark's home, he answered the door shirtless and in a brown leather kilt. The room they found Kevin in was a disguised room inside the basement. The room was filled with chains and sex toys, very much insinuating that this was some kind of violent, kinky thing for Mark.
Kevin Bacon's murder was shocking, grisly, and ritualistic, and new details coming out in court today are painting an even more disturbing picture of what may have transpired inside Mark Latunski's home.
Pulled my head back and exclaimed, "Oh my God, oh my God." And that's when Officer Wertz asked me what was wrong, and I told him to look.
The naked body of 25-year-old Kevin Bacon was hanging from the ceiling in a hidden room of Mark Latunski's home. State Trooper Robert Viviano discovered the false wall that hid the scene. Chains and sex toys were inside the room. Bacon's body was suspended upside down above a trap door.
So the trap door had been lifted in an upright position, which exposed the ground. So Mr. Bacon was directly over the dirt.
Sergeant Detective James Moore with State Police interviewed Latunski, where he admitted to cannibalism after stabbing Bacon.
He went upstairs. He saw that, in his words, it was a new moon. And as a result of that, Latunski stated he normally eats Rocky Mountain oysters. And instead of using the oysters that he had in his freezer, he decided to use the testicles of Kevin Bacon.
Latunski even took a photo. It was submitted to evidence. A forensic analyst found Bacon's DNA in the skillet and Latunski's on the handle. Detective Moore also revealed to the courtroom the suspected murder weapon.
I'm holding a knife that was located in a dresser drawer of Mark Latunski's bedroom.
The forensic analyst found a DNA match to Kevin Bacon and Latunski's DNA on the handle.
470 trillion times more likely if the DNA from the swabs of the handle of the knife came from Mark Latunski.
It seems as if this kind of thing wasn't uncommon for Mark either. Neighbors of Mark claim that one evening in November, a man covered in blood began knocking on his front door. He said that the man was in distress, saying he has purple hair, he's wearing a leather skirt, and he has a couple of belts across his chest. Help me, keep him away from me, help me. The neighbor further claimed that the man was screaming in sheer terror, he wants to hurt me, he wants to kill me. Michigan State Police allegedly arrived at the home just minutes later and took this bleeding man with them. But sadly, no charges were ever filed against Mark for that incident. And this is once again a scenario that could have stopped Mark from taking the life of an innocent person just 1 month later. And it also kind of feels parallel. If you've watched Dahmer, you know there was the boy who escaped, the neighbors intervene, they call the police, yet Dahmer is free to go and actually takes that boy back with him and kills him. It's very similar here. Not only could it have been stopped for future victims, but it's just horrible. So police looked into these claims and found that there were in fact at least 2 other men besides Kevin that Mark met on Grindr. They verified that on October 10th, a New York man born in 1973 fled Mark's home, jumped a fence, and called police after becoming frightened about a consensual sexual encounter. But no police report was filed. Then they also verified that on November 25th, a 29-year-old man fled the home and ran to the neighbors claiming for help and claiming that he had been chained up in Mark's basement, verifying this neighbor's story. But once again, no police report was filed. The 911 call was later released, and knowing what could have happened is just chilling. The first one is a little hard to understand at times, but the absolute terror in his tone and voice is absolutely unmistakable to me.
This is going to sound insane. I'm here in Detroit. I'm from New York, and I met this guy at the bus station who offered me a ride. And I'm not even sure where I am. But I broke out of this fucking basement, and I need a ride.
Okay.
I'm in trouble. I can't even find my way back to his place if I wanted to. I don't know if you can take me a signal. I'm from New York. I'm walking down the street with a picture knife, sweetheart. I need help.
Okay, I'm going to get you help. Are you walking down the street right now?
Yes, ma'am, I am. I'm passing a barn. It's all beautiful here. I can't believe I don't know where I am. I don't know. Like, I never ever had anything like this happen. I don't know whether he drugged me. I don't know. I woke up in the fucking basement, okay? Chained in the basement with a leather thing around my ankle, and I cut it with the butcher knife that I have in my freaking hand, excuse my French.
Okay. Do you have anything on you right now? Are you
I have my phone. I'm sorry, what?
Are you carrying anything?
A butcher knife. Until I see a police officer, when I see a police officer, I will throw it. Until then, I don't trust that he's not walking up because I got lost, and I don't even know if I'm headed towards his house or not. That's why I'm dialing 911. But I'm lost, so I don't even know if I'm headed back towards his house.
He just woke up in a basement. He was chained to something, so he cut the chain off.
I cut the leather strap that had the chain.
He's not sure where he's at.
I just want to get out of here, and I want to go home. I don't even care about the legal case I was here for. I'm sorry I can't help them. I want to go home.
Okay, all right. And listen, I've got help on the way. What were you here for?
I'm a volunteer court advocate. I came here to help on the CSC meeting. And I was supposed to be meeting them at the bus station. I met this guy. I'm by. He was cute. He hit on me. I don't know. We went out to the car. We talked. We went to the store. I had a soda. I woke up in the basement.
Okay.
He obviously drugged me.
Okay, when I get a trooper close to you, I'm going to need you to put that butcher knife down, though.
Oh, that's not an issue, sweetie. We'll go flying into the woods.
Okay.
Your officer is in no danger. I've been a public
You don't need to throw it in the woods, but I just don't want it on you. Is there anything else on you at all?
Just, I don't even know if I have my cigarettes.
Okay. You don't have a bag or anything else?
No, I don't know where my bag's are, sweetie.
Okay.
I'm very fortunate that my wallet was in my hoodie. I met this guy in here, and he seemed like a nice guy. He points outside like he wanted to talk. I go outside. He goes, oh, well, how did you start shooting birds? He was cute. I'm from New York, and I never had this happen.
Are you injured at all? Do you think that you need any medical attention?
No, I'm not injured.
Okay.
I really know for myself. I'm in a panic right now. Chain's only as good as the weakest link, honey. He had a leather strap to a metal chain. He's an idiot.
Okay, where I'm showing you, the trooper is a little bit away, but when he gets closer, I'm going to need you to put that knife down.
That's no problem, man. I have nothing but respect for the police officers. I've never had a problem with police.
Just advising. He has a knife in his hand. He needs to cut that leather off. He's going to put it down when he sees you approaching.
Because I don't know if I'm working towards him, and if he comes walking out, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be unarmed.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I was definitely, I can't, it's so real right now. When this settles in, I'm probably not going to be able to function. This is like shit from a movie. I ran down driveways. I ran all over so much that I'm fucking lost. Excuse my French. I was making sure I wasn't being followed. I don't know whether he's got dogs. I don't know. I don't remember going to his house.
Okay.
I don't want an incident report. I just really need a ride. Get out of here, please.
So if you see him approaching, I need you to put that knife.
Okay, I don't see any lights at all.
Okay.
Okay, I'm starting to see lights coming up behind me. They're ways away, though.
Okay.
I will sit this on the guardrail as soon as I can tell nobody's walking behind me. This is the second vehicle I'm seeing tonight.
Okay.
And I'm hoping this is a cop, because if it's not, I'm going to be really scared. I'm flagging down whoever this is. So if this is the maniac, you're going to hear some crazy shit. I don't know. I think this is a cop because that looks like an extra bright light, so I am now putting this down. Okay. I am unarmed. It is on the guardrail. I am not armed.
He sees you, he's putting that knife on the guardrail.
I am not armed. Okay, I see.
Okay.
It's over here.
He sees you. He sees you.
Okay. I just want him to know I'm not armed.
He knows.
I'm not armed.
He knows.
Yes, sir, I am. I'm not armed. I'm just really happy to see you. No, sir, you do whatever you have to do. You're the police. Stand in front of my car. Whatever you need, sir. Okay, I'm going to hang up on you, okay?
Yep, he'll take good care of you.
Charlotte County 911.
I'm trying to get away from some creepy guy. He had me tied up in his basement.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm trying to escape from some guy who had me chained up in his basement.
He had you chained in his basement? Where are you calling from?
I don't know. I don't know this road.
Are you on?
From here.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Looks like you're on Tyrell Road.
It could be.
Are you walking?
Yeah.
Hold on 1
I
Oh,
don't
second.
even have shoes on.
3562.
I don't know if I should try to go to someone's house. I don't know where I'm at.
I'm trying to put out a call. 62,
Okay.
you can start off for Tyrell. Just east of Morris Road, had a subject that was chained up in someone's basement, just fled the residence. He's out on foot.
He's after me.
Okay, I need you to go to somewhere safe. If you can run up to somebody's house. Where are you at right now? Are you able to get away?
Help me. Help me.
62, he's running towards the house. Guy's trying to come after him. I'm trying to get further. Okay, I need an address where you're at. I'm trying to get it.
What's your address? I'm on the phone with the cops right now.
431. What's their address? I need their address.
He won't give me the address. Please.
Are you outside or inside somebody's house?
I'm trying to find someone to help me.
Are you in the road? I have some state troopers that aren't very far away.
I don't know where.
Are you in
Well,
where are you at right
I'm on a white house across from like a barn.
Okay, are you close to the road? Can you see an address on the mailbox?
Yeah. I'm too far away from the mailbox.
I'm sorry?
I'm too far away from it.
Can you see a mailbox? Are you on the road?
Yeah, I'm on the road now.
62 and 12, he's running down the road, trying to get an address or a mailbox or something from him. Kind of hysterical.
910W.
910?
Yeah.
I think he's in front of 910 West Tyrell. Is that 910 Tyrell?
I'm on the call. What's your address?
Let me can I talk to whoever you're talking to?
What's your address? What's your address?
3562 and 12. We're going to be at 910. That's the house we're at, 910. He's talking to a homeowner there. Okay, do you know where the house was at you were at?
It was not even a mile down the road going, I don't know what way. I see the trooper.
Okay.
I see both of them. I see the trooper right there. He just, yeah. Trooper is right here.
Okay, go ahead and talk to them, and you're going to have to point out where the house was at that you're in, okay?
Okay.
All right. Go ahead and talk to the troopers there.
Okay, so
right.
Hang up.
Yep, you can hang up with me.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Investigators further found out that the police had been called to Mark's home about a dozen times in the last decade. And Mark Latunski had been married. His husband was interviewed after Mark was first arrested, and people began to wonder if Mark had shown any signs leading up to this horrific event of what was soon about to happen to Kevin. His husband, Jamie Arnold, claims that he and Mark had separated back in September, but that it wasn't finalized yet at this point. So from now on, because he says they were separated, we're going to refer to him as the ex-husband. Jamie lived in the home with Mark, and that same home where Kevin's body was found. However, like I said, they were separated and apparently had been for a few months, so he was not living in the home at the time that Kevin's body was found. Jamie said that the reason they separated was because he couldn't handle his husband's lifestyle anymore. The couple had been married since 2016, and he claimed that many times he would come home from work and there would be another man in their home, and that Mark would try to get the three of them sexually involved, but that each time this happened, Jamie would make dinner and then just go to bed. He said this lifestyle is ultimately what caused him to want to separate from his husband. When asked the last time he saw Mark, he said on Christmas. He said he had a few friends over and he invited Mark because he didn't want him to be alone on Christmas. Now at this point, remember, he picked up Kevin on Christmas Eve, so Kevin was already in his basement and most likely dead at this point. But Jamie says that Mark never showed any signs of anything being wrong when he was over there on Christmas. He then explains in the interview that the Monday before Christmas, his car broke down, causing him to use a rental car. He further explained that it was costing him a fortune, and when Mark offered to take his rental car back and let him borrow his own on December 27th, he obliged. He said that he dropped Mark off that night at around 10 p.m., and that Mark never invited him inside, so he just dropped him off, took his car, and left. It was the very next day, on December 28th, that Kevin's body was found in the home.
Nobody should have to go through this. No parent should ever have to bury a child.
Jamie Arnold talking about the parents of Kevin Bacon. 25-year-old Bacon was found murdered inside what was once Arnold's permanent residence in Bennington Township, a home he shared with his husband, accused killer Mark David Latunski.
What is somebody who, when you met, was this kind, gentle soul who turned into this monster? You don't want to believe it.
He says he can't believe his husband is charged with murder and mutilation in Bacon's death on Christmas Eve. Arnold says he separated from Latunski in September and moved out of the house because of his husband's lifestyle.
One time I came home and there's somebody there, and he tried to get me involved, and it was like, you know what? I'm going to make me dinner. I'm going to go to bed. That's why I had to get out. So I couldn't take that lifestyle anymore.
And when's the last time you talked to Mark?
I talked to Mark on Christmas Day. I had some friends over and I didn't want him to be alone, so I invited him over Christmas Day if he wanted to come.
Okay, so
He arrived there in the afternoon, I don't know, sometime around 1, 2 o'clock. He appeared to be normal. He never exhibited any signs that anything was wrong.
Jamie said Christmas Day was the last time he talked to his husband, but later told me that his car broke down the Monday before Christmas and he had to get a rental car. He said he had no one to call for help.
On Friday the 27th, he was here to take my car, the rental car, back because it was costing me a fortune. And he said, hey, you know what? Why don't you use my car? There's a truck, you know, I'll get that fixed up and I'll drive that and you can drive my car until your car is fixed.
did you take Mark back to the house on that Friday?
Yes, I did.
Did you go in the house?
I did not. I dropped him off at 10:30 at night. And came back home. I had to work the next day, and he never once said, hey, why don't you come in? He just got out of the car, left, and I left.
Kevin Bacon's body was found the following morning. Jamie says he was interviewed by police. Michigan State Police told TV5 they cannot confirm if Arnold had been interviewed by investigators, but did say there are no other suspects at this time.
The police told me that if they thought I was involved, I would have been arrested by now if I was under any kind of suspicion.
Why would you think that people would think you're involved?
Because of social media, because of what's out there. All they know is what they see. I understand. They see pictures of us together. They see that we are married, that we live in the same place. They don't know that I left. They don't know the reasons why I left.
Arnold says he never met Kevin Bacon and he doesn't understand how or why this happened. He says he's coming forward to proclaim his innocence and clear his name.
If you're in hiding, you're guilty. Or if you're in public, you're guilty. If, you know, what you say is guilty. Why would you have him over to your house on Christmas? Well, because he was somebody I cared about, that I didn't want to be alone on Christmas, because how do you stop loving somebody? Do I love him now? The person he was 5 years ago, this person, no.
Jamie claimed that the police investigated him and interviewed him, saying that if they thought that he was involved at all, he would have already been in jail. But that wasn't good enough for many Reddit users and the rest of the internet. Many people began posting photos together and said that there was no possible way that he wasn't involved or that he didn't know the person he was with was so crazy and mentally ill. Now, in my personal opinion, Jamie's interview was one of the most genuine and heartfelt interviews that I've seen in a while. He tears up speaking about Kevin's parents, saying that nobody should ever have to go through that heartbreak and have to bury their child. And to me, he even seems a little bit desperate when discussing how people are posting their pictures all over social media, as if that makes him guilty. They were married and they lived together for a period of time, so of course there will be pictures of the two of them together, and that it doesn't mean he is directly involved in any of this. He seemed upset and said that he isn't the Mark that he knew and loved. Lastly, because I don't want to get too on a tangent here, people who are seriously mental ill and twisted are masters at hiding it. Think Ted Bundy. He worked at a crisis hotline for people who were having these thoughts about taking their own life, and he had a girlfriend of many years. He also had a child at home, and nobody ever suspected a thing about him. Sometimes the scariest people are those who do hide in plain sight. And Jamie was not only the failed marriage to Mark. However, Emily Latunski married Mark in 2001, and they had 4 children together. They then divorced in 2013. Emily claimed that he had a history of not taking his prescribed antipsychotics. And according to Emily's court filings, Mark on multiple occasions kidnapped his own children by not following the custody plans. He kept her and her children from leaving the home, and lastly, he apparently made insane claims that she and her brother were trying to murder him by poisoning a well. Mark was arrested for that in 2013 based on court documents for kidnapping 2 of his 4 children and refusing to return them to their mother. He was declared incompetent to stand trial in that trial back in February of 2014 and was ordered into outpatient treatment in May of 2014. He was deemed competent in January of 2015, however, the case was dismissed a month later. So now that we have discussed his marriages and the potential warning signs that he presented, let's go over his history of mental illnesses. In 2010, Mark was diagnosed with severe, recurrent, and chronic major depression with psychotic features, adjustment disorder with depression, and anxiety with paranoid schizophrenia and borderline personality traits. He had been admitted to the hospital 4 times for mental health concerns. In 2013, according to a police report, he introduced himself to police as William Gregory Dean and actually claimed that he killed Mark Latunski with the stroke of a pen. He also pretended to be unconscious when police found him lying in his father's home. So let's recall that Jamie and Mark married in 2016. Jamie claims that it wasn't until 2019 that he even became aware of these mental health issues. But in February of 2019, he was fired from his longtime job as a chemist due to his erratic behavior. He accused the place that he worked for of contaminating the products that he would make. He also began saying that the children weren't his and that his neighbors were contaminating their water. And in July of 2019, Mark was arrested for failure to pay child support, and he spent 4 days in jail. In August, Emily filed a motion to suspend Mark's parenting time, claiming that he was off his medication. The hearing for that case was scheduled for December 10th. On October 23rd, a bench warrant was issued for Mark for not paying child support. However, it is unclear why he was never arrested. Regardless of that, he was arrested on December 10th at the parenting time hearing, but unfortunately, he was released the very next day. Unfortunately, it was just 2 short weeks later that Kevin was killed. Earlier this year in February, Mark's attorneys and the county prosecutors fought over what evidence should be admitted at trial. It was also argued during this hearing that the past encounters that men had with Mark should not be used in trial. However, the judge ruled that the evidence could be used.
At first blush, the other 2 gentlemen's accounts might seem similar enough under the requisite Vanderbilt analysis, but that is because the government is relying upon its own judgmental views and misapprehension of BDSM. Now, while that BDSM may be viewed as an unorthodox sexual practice, it does not include homicide, and it certainly did not include any other acts proffered by the government. When looking at each piece of evidence, this court must evaluate the other alleged acts in light of the following standard. The evidence must be relevant under MRE 402, must be offered for a proper purpose under MRE 404B, and the probative value of the evidence must not be substantially outweighed by unfair prejudice. Of course, the government has the burden of proving all of these elements. Mr. Latunski is accused of killing the victim with a large knife by stabbing him in the back of the neck and then cutting his throat. He's also accused of removing the victim's testicles after death. But neither of the alleged acts have anything to do with removing body parts, cutting or injuring a person, or anything remotely close to murder. And despite what the government dwells on in its response, this case is not about bondage or fear. It's about allegations of murder and mutilation. And Mr. Bacon's death was not part of any sexual practice. Now, despite the government's allegations, there is no evidence of violence or Mr. Latunski cutting or even threatening to cut the other individuals with a knife. In People v. Sabin, the Supreme Court held that there must be such concurrence of common features that the various acts are naturally to be explained as caused by a general plan. So there must be some connection between the various acts. And yet that is not the case here. Merely engaging in a sexual practice that includes bondage and discipline, dominance and submission, or sadism and masochism, that some may believe is unorthodox, but one that is not as uncommon as the government wants the court and the jury to believe, and it is absolutely not indicative of a tendency toward murder or mutilation.
Just 1 month later, in March 2022, the case was delayed once again due to his attorneys seeking another mental health evaluation. His attorney, Mary, claimed it was necessary because his mental status had been deteriorating in recent conversations. In another court hearing in May of 2022, Mark was once again found competent to stand trial. The judge's ruling came after testimony from the doctor that evaluated him at the time. So now that we've covered a bit of this case's background, let's discuss the most recent updates and why this case is regenerating in the media. Extremely recently, on September 22nd, Mark was in court for a plea hearing. Mark pled guilty to open murder and mutilation of a body, despite his attorney advising him not to. And honestly, this came as quite a bit of a surprise to everybody. Mark admitted during this hearing to stabbing Kevin in the back while the two were in his home.
Mr. Latunski, on December 24th, 2019, were you at 703 West Terrell in Morris, Michigan?
Yes, I was.
To your knowledge, is that in Shiawassee County?
Yes, it is.
On that date, were you with Kevin Bacon?
Yes, I was.
Did you use a knife to stab Mr. Bacon?
Yes, I did.
Did you know that stabbing Mr. Bacon with a knife would most certainly create a very high risk of death or great bodily harm to Mr. Bacon?
Yes, I did.
After Mr. Bacon was dead, did you remove part of his body, specifically his testicles?
Yes, I did.
Did you move those testicles to the kitchen?
Yes, I did.
Did you do so without legal authorization, meaning you were not doing so to embalm Mr. Bacon's body or to do a proper post-mortem examination?
No, I didn't.
Your Honor, I believe that's sufficient factual basis for both counts.
Mr. Kerner,
People are satisfied, Your Honor.
do you believe that's sufficient factual?
I do.
Mr. Arraignment, do you believe that the court has complied with the guilty plea provisions of Michigan Court Rule 6.302, subsections A through B of that court?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Kerner. Do you agree with Mr. Arraignment?
I do agree, Your Honor.
Mr. Latunski, the court agrees with the attorneys. The court does find you guilty of open murder and dismembering a body, and your conviction now is made part of the record of this court. We cannot, however, give you a sentence yet because we're not finished. We have to have a degree hearing. And I spoke to counsel in chambers, and we agreed that that degree hearing will be conducted in this courtroom on October 18th and October 19th of 2022.
So Mary, Mark's attorney, had indicated that she wanted to go for an insanity plea. So pleading guilty was highly not recommended here. Nobody is sure why he went with the guilty plea when he had originally pleaded not guilty up until now. So the trial is scheduled for October 18th. Literally happening right around the corner, or already has started depending on when YouTube lets this video go up. He will have a review hearing before the judge, and during this the judge will determine whether Mark is convicted of first or second degree murder or manslaughter. The upcoming hearing works similarly to a mini bench trial. It will include witnesses and evidence put forth by both the county prosecutor and Mark's defense team. Once a decision has been reached, he will then be scheduled for sentencing. And if he is found guilty on first-degree murder, it would mean an automatic life sentence, which personally I think is not only warranted, but I think is like the safest bet for humanity and the community. He clearly has a pattern and a track record of being unstable. So getting him off the streets for good, no parole, no nothing, is like the safest thing out there in my opinion. I don't for one second believe that Kevin ever had any thoughts of being unhappy and wanting to do this to himself, even though that is the story and the tale that Mark Latunski tried to spin. But I am curious to know your thoughts on this. Also, not that any of us know, unless somebody here who's watching is way more educated than the mass population, but I want to know why you think certain people are wired like this. Mental illness or not, what drives somebody to not only murder somebody and mutilate them, but to physically, literally consume them and eat them? What drives a person to do that? Surely it's not to cover up evidence or get rid of things. There has to be something in as far as like a power control or like, I don't know, a trophy of sort. I don't even know, guys. So I'm curious, like, what do you think drives people to do this? Because this isn't the first and it isn't the last case we're going to hear like this. And like I said, it's very reminiscent to Dahmer, and certain situations actually are quite parallel with Dahmer as well. But there are multiple cases like this that are out there, this whole cannibalism thing. So like, what is it in somebody's mind? Is it a fetish? Is it something where they think that by consuming somebody, they're gaining more power and like their traits? I don't understand it. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. As soon as we know something about sentencing, I'll give you guys an update. It's going to be really interesting what happens there and if, another curveball is trying to be thrown. But I think for now, at least this monster is off the streets, and hopefully Kevin's family can begin to heal. Losing a loved one in general is just heartbreaking and devastating, especially when it's murder. But to lose them in such a gruesome way, and to know that their body was violated and you don't even get that full person back to lay them to rest. I just can't imagine the pain that they are dealing with. So I'm hoping that once this is all over, they can begin to heal, knowing that Mark is locked up for good and has been held accountable. And this is just, again, a glaring reminder to everybody. Please, please be careful with who you meet online. And if you are going to go meet somebody online, because I get it, that's the day and age that we live in, tell someone where you're going, share your location, send a screenshot of the person's profile you're meeting, turn your location on your phone so you can be tracked. I mean, do whatever you need to do, because there's so many sickos out there, especially right now in the world, that you really just never know. So it's better to err on the side of caution. That's just my little soapbox speech. All right, guys, thanks again for tuning in today. I hope you appreciate the case coverage. I know you probably didn't enjoy it because nobody ever really enjoys these things, but please give this video a thumbs up on your way out. And as always, if you want early access to all of my videos, you can get that access by heading over to Patreon. And you can also get access to our private group chat on Discord there. All right, guys, thanks again. And until the next one, stay safe. Bye.